safely and made sure that they were where they should be, when they should be, and unfortunately he passed away. So our sympathies go out to him and his family, and please give me a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, call to order. I need an approval of the minutes of the November 17th meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to accept the claims and financial and treasurer's reports.
I make a motion.
Need a second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Almost lost the table on that one. Now it's time for audience communication. Anything that is on the agenda item, that's an agenda item only, please feel free to come up to the dais, the podium. Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Okay, it's been a busy month in our buildings, a lot of fun stuff, different items of business to attend to. But first, I'd like to congratulate all of our musicians. It's very exciting to see a bunch of you here this evening. But I'd also like to congratulate their teachers, Mr. Bowie, Mr. Osmond, Ms. Malusa, Ms. Finero, and Mr. Fowle on an excellent holiday concert series. We wrapped that up last night here in the auditorium with the high school concert. So nice job, guys, and we're excited to have you here tonight to play for us. Last month, we accessed numerous student desks and chairs from Cutchogue East. They're in pretty good shape, but we've put some more modern furniture in a bunch of our classrooms. It's 2 classroom sets. We've reached out to districts all across Long Island. It seems that many districts on Long Island have taken some of the COVID money they got and have replaced a bunch of their furniture. So there seems to be a flood of furniture and a lack of need. We've also reached out to some of the private schools locally, and again, there's no interest. So we have nowhere to store them. So I'm just kind of announcing that if there are any families that are interested in some chairs and desks, they want to set up some study space for their children, they are available at Cutchogue East, and we'll be giving them away next week. If they call the building, they can make arrangements to come pick them up. We'll also put it out on our Facebook pages and social media to let our families know, but that we're going to be giving those items away over the course of next week, and then they'll be discarded over the holiday recess.
This will also be open to any parents that are homeschooling?
Anybody that's interested, we'll blast it out there. We really want to see them go to use. They're in pretty good shape still. On December 1st, Matatuck High School and Mr. Smith hosted a parent presentation on the dangers of vaping. It was an excellent presentation presented by Mrs. Neidigger, our Students Assistance Counselor. It was well advertised but poorly attended, sadly. My message to Mr. Smith and Mrs. Neidigger is you keep up the good work, and sometimes when these issues come up, you go forward with those types of presentations, even if you suspect that they won't be well attended. We're doing our part, but it's a problem, the level of vaping, at the junior, senior high school, and it's across the board when I speak to my colleagues in other districts. So we're doing educational pieces with our students in the building. We also like to tie that into an educational component for the parents. So some parents did come. There was a lot of great information. They were very appreciative for that information.
Sean, with my lack of computer knowledge, is there any way we can put that out on our site?
It was recorded, and we can post it, out and make that presentation available. Okay. So it was streamed as well.
And I attended that presentation, just so parents know, they're not long presentations. So if you could get here, it's usually within an hour you're in and out, and you leave with a great amount of information.
So, as principal, I used to tell parents all the time that, we don't do these things for the sake of doing them. If we're calling you out at night, it's for an important reason. So, again, keep up the good work, Mr. Smith. Don't be deterred, because it's easily to be deterred when that happens to you. Earlier this month, Mr. Smith and I met with Mr. Gooley and Mr. Underwood of the Mattituck Laurel Civic Association. The purpose of that meeting was it was twofold. One was they wanted to help educate students, find ways to educate students on what exactly it is that the Civic Association does, looking to get some student involvement in the Civic Association. And so Mr. Underwood, being a previous teacher here in the district, I thought that he was well suited to come and speak to some of our classes. So we are putting Mr. Buckner, who teaches our senior government classes, in contact with Mr. Underwood, and hopefully Mr. Underwood will be in as a guest speaker. The other item that we spoke about is, well, not a lot of people know, but we own a nice piece of property across the street, bordering Marituca Lake. It's actually that cleared space, and then there's some areas on either side. To the right of that, there's some acreage owned by the Civic Association, and to the left of that, there's some acreage owned by Southold Town. The Civic Association is trying to spearhead an agreement with ourselves, the school district, and Southold Town to put a walking trail in that area. To clear the area and to do it, but they just need everyone to agree to allow for that space. That space it's kind of, it hasn't bugged me for years, but it's bothered me that we haven't been able to come up with a productive way of using it. I can remember walking it with Mr. Wormuth a few years back. Could we get access to the lake? Could we potentially do a kayaking unit, different things? It was just too overgrown to do that, but a walking path in that area might be something nice for the community. I told Mr. Gooley I'd bring that to the board and, see what your feelings were, cause for concern.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to use it, otherwise it's sitting there, wasting space.
Yeah, I agree, and to be able to see the three different municipalities come together, and pool their resources and create something for the community, I think would be nice as well. So.
Any idea what kind of a walking trail they'd want to put in?
Before they really go forward with that, they just kind of wanted to see if it was even an option worth exploring.
Yeah.
So based on the response this evening, I'll let Mr. Gooley know that the district would not be opposed to, working with them and putting something like that together.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. Ms. Neidiger was back at it on December 9th. She and students from the High School SAD Club and the Mental Health Awareness Program attended the East End Youth Leadership Summit at Suffolk Community College. The purpose of this program is to bring students from districts all across Suffolk County to discuss topics. These are often the students that are going and running programs in their building. So they get together, they discuss, what topics may need addressing, and then share, things that they've found success with, and, share ideas to bring back to their districts. So I want to thank her for taking that on and bringing our students to that. Speaking of music, 7 outstanding student musicians have been named, selected to perform at the Hamptons Music Education Association for middle school band in January. This band is made up of top student musicians in grades 6 through 8 from across the East End. So congratulations to the students, staff, music, and parents for this wonderful achievement. So these students are Charlie Blasco, Jack Driscoll, who's here, right? We have some of our students with us tonight. Owen Edgett, Mason Keller, Renee Lutz, and both Justin and James Sheldon. On Monday evening, Mrs. Finnegan, our community liaison, Rafael Moraes, and 2 of our E&L students, Wendy Molina and Eric Morales, they participated in a news radio show, Spotlight on Long Island News. It's a radio show hosted by St. Joseph's University. The show was run by Bob Vecchio, who was president of the New York State School Boards Association at one point in time, where they're always looking, I get calls sometimes from them looking to highlight different things that are going on in local schools. So we decided to highlight our ENL program. It's something we're real proud of, making a lot of progress, and so that I'll be pushing out to the board information on how they can access that radio show. But in talking to Mrs. Finnegan, you know, the students just did an amazing job of, you know, sharing their journey, you know, what it was like to come here at a young age, and how language acquisition really did transform their experience at school, and then just some of the different things that we do as a district to assimilate and provide opportunity, and they've made the most of it, and, you know, they're 2 successful students that'll be graduating this year. I got a little concerned, Mr. Vecchio's on the board at William Floyd, and he made mention of trying to steal Mr. Moraes from us. You know, I was very impressed with the work that's being done, so I'll send that information out to you folks. Last week, Ryan Ruff, who is the new Chief Operating Officer of Eastern Suffolk BOCES, he asked to have a visit with me. He's new to the position. He's mostly familiar with Western Suffolk school districts and not so much the East End. He has a keen interest on the East End and learning about it, so that was the purpose of his visit. I was proud to share a lot about, Mattituck, Cutchogue, and the North Fork school districts. But it's very nice to see the new Chief Operating Officer taking such an interest in the East End. He's been very supportive. He's holding the cluster meetings in Riverhead, making it easier for us on the East End to participate. So I'm thankful for that. It was a very good visit. And then I'd spoken to the board after the conference I went to up in Saratoga, the New York State School Superintendents Association. I was very interested in some of the challenges that some of the rural schools were seeing in upstate New York, and very similar to what we were experiencing here. So Mattituck Cutchogue has joined the New York State Rural Schools Association. There was a cost associated with it, but it also makes us eligible for some different grants and scholarships as well. So I know that, I believe Amagansett and Bridgehampton are the only other 2 Long Island schools that are part of the association. So it's a great resource. I'd like to, have direct contact to that group of superintendents to just help troubleshoot as different things. It's whether it's lower enrollment, consolidation of programs and things like that are hot topics up there. So looking forward to connect with those folks. Our Best Buddies and Cultural Connections Club and our vocational students joined forces and traveled to New York City last week to see the Big Apple Circus and have lunch. Students were learning life skills, socialized, and for many it was their first time visiting New York City. It's really a great trip for some of our students that have never had that opportunity before. If you remember your first time in New York City, it's quite overwhelming, especially this time of year. So the sights and the sounds during the holiday season made it a special experience. So thank you to Ms. Wills and Ms. Bieber, and Mr. Moraes for making that opportunity possible for our students. Last Friday, we had the NJROTC annual inspection at Southold. This is where the head of the Navy from the East Coast comes and oversees the ROTC programs. They perform drills. It's really an oversight of what our ROTC program's doing. They, interview the cadets and the commanders, get some insight into the program, and then the students perform their drills, for the administration, community, and parents. They do a great job. Mr. Smith and I had expressed we were interested to see. This is a big transition year for ROTC, with 2 of the 3 instructors being new. They really didn't skip a beat. They did a really nice job. He was clearly very impressed and drew reference to the fact that our combined NJRTC unit's the only one of its kind in existence in the world, where the different schools come together to do that. We were very happy. It was nice. It was impressive as always. And then tomorrow, the NJRTC is going to host a drill competition here at Mattituck High School. There'll be 11 different schools from Northeast United States here tomorrow. Not here tomorrow, here on Saturday. So if you're around, you see a bunch of cars here, and that's what's going on. You can peek in. But it's the annual competition. It's pretty impressive as well. Laurel School, we talked about putting a driveway in and creating more parking at that facility. Mr. Kelly, when I task him with doing something, it tends to happen faster than expected. That was the case with this, and it was put in this week. So that work was done. I want to update the board on that. And then, okay. So today, at the junior senior high school, Mr. Smith hosted a program for our female students in grades 7 to 9, focused around the movie Finding Kind. It's a program that utilizes the movie to facilitate a conversation on girl bullying. And it's something we've shown in the past. We find it very productive. So that took place today here. And then tomorrow, Mr. Wormuth is going to be taking some of our student athletes, and they're going to be attending a wellness program at Center Moriches. Again, it's bringing together, student athletic leaders from different districts coming together to share ideas and, get some programs and ideas to bring back to their districts, which is nice to see that we're tapping into, some of our athletes and their leadership potential and bringing it back to improve the culture of the school district. So that'll take place tomorrow.
Good.
So that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, elementary leadership update and holiday music.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud to introduce our band teacher, Mr. Bowie, and our young musicians from our concert band. They'll be performing a piece tonight from their winter concert.
Hello, my name is Ben DeSantis, a member of the Cutchogue East 5th and 6th grade concert band. Last week, our band put on a concert for the students and families of the Cutchogue East community. Tonight, we would like to share with you one of the pieces we performed at the concert, Dance Celebration by Robert W. Smith. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, it looks like our music programs, I would say we don't rebuild, we reload.
Exactly.
Nice job, students, Mr. Bowie.
Fantastic job.
Yeah, very, very good.
Very good.
No, it was up before. It was up before they began.
Okay, athletic recognition?
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about the fall sports season and highlight some of the accomplishments of our athletes during this season. During the fall sports season, we once again had great participation. There was 197 student athletes participating in the high school sports and another 92 students participating at the junior high level. So again, we're a real high percentage of students participating in our athletic programs as we offer a great variety for them. In the sport of golf, we had 2 student athletes compete and make the cut in the team championship tournament, so they made the cut to move on to the individual championship. That was Andrew McKenzie and Rocco Horton. They did qualify for that county tournament as an individual. They didn't make the cut for the state qualifiers, but you know, hats off to them for playing great rounds in very, very tough conditions. Those 2 days were brutal. They rained the entire both days. The temperature was in the low 40s and very, very windy. So scores were tough. The conditions were tough for the sport of golf. In tennis, we did well as a team, but then we had Justina Solowinska qualified and became an all-county player. She qualified in the county tournament, moved on to the individual championship tournament, and took 8th overall. So that's a great feat. All schools in Suffolk County participating in that to take 8th as an individual, really great accomplishment. In the team sports, it was one of those years where I felt like the ball just didn't bounce our way, right? So in the boys soccer program, we made it as the number 3 seed into the county tournament. We took a tough loss against Center Merchants at their place to move forward. They had a great season. In volleyball, we're the league champions. We go into the county championship having already beat Port Jefferson. We win the first 2 sets, we're up 2-0. And then a switch went off for the Port Jefferson team, and we dropped the next 3, and they move on to win Port Jeff moves on to win the county, the Long Island, and really represent very well as the 2nd place finisher in the state tournament. Wow. You know, we've been to the state tournament a lot, like 9 straight years in girls volleyball. And this year, I think if we could have got past Port Jefferson there, we could have been right there in the number 2 spot in the state, or even maybe won the championship for the first time ever. But a great season. Mr. Massa completed his final year with us. He is going to retire as our varsity girls volleyball coach. It's going to be very, very difficult to replace him. 36 straight years of very good girls volleyball here. So that'll be a tough shoes to fill for sure. The boys and girls cross country team, for the first time ever that I know of, I went back and looked through some history to try to find, they both won the county championship in the same year. I don't think it's ever been done in Mattituck history where they've done that. They won the Class C championship as a team, and they didn't win the league championship, which was interesting. So they didn't win the league, but then beat up on everybody in championship day, which was amazing. So they took the title there. Both teams went on to compete as a team in the New York State Championship. That was up in Verona, at Verona Sherrill School District in Verona, New York. It sits right on the reservation, and that's where that competition was. They both finished 9th in the state out of all the sections. So as the teams, Trevor Zapula finished 8th overall. Trevor also independently won the counties in the Class Cs with a 17:23 race at Sunken Meadow to win that. He beat the rest of the field by almost 2 minutes. It was really an incredible race for him. and, you know, both teams did an outstanding job. The winter sports season is off and running. There are 145 student athletes participating in the winter sports season, and you'll see the difference between 197 and 145 from the fall. It's just the number of teams that we offer and different sports that we offer, so there's a little decline there. But what's interesting is at the junior high level, there are 94, 2 more than in the fall, participating, and that's only girls volleyball and junior high boys basketball, where we have 3 teams of each in those. So there's a lot of junior high students participating. When our 7th and 8th grade enrollment number is 150-ish.
Yeah.
So we're almost at 100 kids participating at the junior high level, so it's outstanding. And as Mr. Petretti said, I'm going to go to Center Merchants tomorrow for an athletic leadership conference with 4 students, 2 juniors and 2 seniors we were allowed to bring with us. We were invited. There'll be about 200 student athletes from across Suffolk County to attend that. That'll be from 8:30 to 1:30 tomorrow. So the students and I are excited to just get involved with some other school districts, some other students, talk about what it is we do, what they do, and see what we can bring back to Mapleton.
Mr. Wormuth,
Yeah.
how are those students chosen?
Those students were chosen. I asked some coaches to give me some recommendations by them, and some of it was just student interest. One of the students is very interested in really leading the charge in our school in some mental health initiatives. So initially I went and asked her specifically, and then I asked her, I said, all right, who might you and some other coaches think would be excited or interested in going to this? So I got some coaches' feedback, and then I asked kids independently also, and so I'm like, and you know, the other one's like, yeah, I'd like to go to that. So, yeah, we're excited. We're going to go do that tomorrow. And then we'll report back. Hopefully I can have those students meet with some of our varsity teams after. That's the idea of it, is that on Wednesdays we might have a varsity club, if you will, where it'll be me and some of the varsity team members, and we'll meet and we'll have some discussions and try to share some good mental health initiatives and information. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Ray.
you. Okay, Mr. Smith.
So beginning this month, we're going to be highlighting a couple of departments to report out and give us some information about what's going on in these departments. So tonight, we're going to have Mr. Farrell from English and Mr. Friend from the Science Department.
All right, I guess whoever shows up first goes first. Okay. Good evening. Okay, so we're just going to take you through what the course of study is in language arts, English language arts, and some of the extracurriculars, and then also some of our electives as well. All right. You want to- Let's see, here we go. Okay, so here are our academic classes. So in the junior high, no surprises. Pretty much introductory level of everything, the exception being language arts, which is carved out for really focusing on skill acquisition for people that have been identified in need. High school things start to get a little more interesting because options start to open up. So we have obviously a sort of, you might call it a baseline level course at each grade level, and then an honors course in 10th grade. You'll notice in 9th grade, excuse me. You'll notice in 10th grade, I've just listed AP Seminar. That's one of our newest courses, and that's really taking off well. It's in its 2nd year. It's a popular course, and it's growing. Well, that's the intent, and it seems to be going that way. And as it seems as our population is shrinking a bit, and our course selection is, growing to a degree, it's going to be harder to offer English 10 honors, and AP Seminar. Seems like that's the direction we're going to go in, which does then line those students up for a potential pathway of 3 AP courses, which could translate into a fair amount of credits for college going forward. So that's what that's looking like, which is great. That's really exciting for us. And our electives, some of these have been around for quite a while. We have public speaking, which you could argue should be a graduation requirement. It's not just because it's a really good course, which it is, that Ms. Gilvari developed, and has been teaching for many years now, just because of the unique skill set that you don't really get in other courses. But that does well continually. Creative writing is still going. That is a program that I think even predated Mr. Brennan, who taught it for years. And that's offered for a half a year as well. So that course is going great. And then we brought back the acting workshop, and that was something that was developed many years ago and went for a long time. It didn't quite work out with the schedule this year, and we think it's probably hopefully going to work out better again next year with scheduling and maybe a little bit of promotion. Because we do get, the idea is to, really develop their skills and then translate them over to the stage and other areas where you might perform, like now. We do have great participation in our, performing arts. So this is just a great way to help serve that language arts need as well. And then with that as well, we have our extracurriculars. The Matatalk is going strong. As you can see, it might look different than how it looks. Actually, it looks kind of like it did back in the 1930s in some way. It was an 8 by 11 paper back then. We have copies. And it's moved electronically. So it's now as an electronic paper. It's back to that sort of size, but it looks great. And they're covering a great number of issues, which is wonderful. The kids are really enthusiastic for that. And expression is still going great, and I can testify to that because I'm the advisor for that. And we have a nice number of kids. This also gives kids a great outlet for, expressing themselves in ways that they don't normally get to express themselves. And the magazine itself also is an avenue for mostly written expression and celebrating those kids, but we do work at getting our visual artists some representation there as well, as we go through. So that's wonderful. The yearbook, it's under language arts, as well it should be. I went back to find some pictures there from Ms. Arslanian. This is all those language arts skills as far as layout and wording and font size and printing and all those cool things. So obviously that's going great. And then the musical and play obviously definitely falls under language arts. So this is everything from scripts and breaking it down to developing characters to public speaking again in a whole different way. So that's what we do in English language arts. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Jaws has a question.
Yep. How many students are enrolled in the public speaking class?
I don't know this year. That's a good question, but I know in past years when I've gone to watch kids speak, it's been in each semester probably at least 12 to 15 kids in a semester. That's been my recollection.
Yeah. No, it's an important class.
I couldn't agree more.
All the electives half year?
All the electives are half year. And at this point, I think just based on our enrollment, sometimes we used to run classes twice. And I don't think we're able to do that at the current time.
And do you have any new electives on the horizon?
There has been talk of some new electives. We're in this great time where we have a lot of great electives, a lot of people offering electives, and so the electives start to cannibalize other electives. And so a lot of the effort has now been pushed into strengthening what we've got and promoting what we've got to get people in it. Speaking of extra electives.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Farrell, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Are the electives in place of, say, English 9, 10, 11,
No.
or 12, or it's in addition to?
These are elective courses that do not count for course credit.
Thank
And
you.
just one more question. What is the difference between the AP seminar versus the honors English?
AP Seminar is a different curriculum. It's a research-based course in AP Seminar, and it teaches a whole extra skill set of, it actually goes back to Mr. Cooper's question at the last board meeting about research skills, organizing argument, organizing source material, and it has an AP exam attached to it as well.
I just want to make sure that in the honors English, we're not losing any of those literature-based students that, enjoy some of the English language that other students don't.
I think in a perfect world, we would offer every course that we could offer. but when we're looking at the numbers we're looking at, I don't know that we're gonna be able to.
No, it's good to have the research skills. Thank you.
Yep.
Jen, did you have a question? Just one more. Do we have a speech and debate club or team as far as extracurriculars?
We don't
go?
have a speech and debate club. We do have a mock trial club,
Right.
and I've left that under the social studies umbrella for the moment. Mr. McKenna, who's also an attorney, runs that program, and so that sort of fulfills some of that debate. But we had debate here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, now, Mr.
Thank you, Carol.
How is everybody? Good? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. All right, everybody, here is the science department. Just like Mr. Farrell, I figured I'd start out with from square one. This is from guidance, showing you, the pathway that you take. 7th grade would be at the top, and then we roll into 8th grade. You have the option of taking Bio AB, which is just the 2-year version of bioregions. After bio, you would then roll into your 9th grade. You would go into earth science, or you would continue on to Bio B. And then after 9th grade, you're going to roll into one of the electives. We started out with a marine bioastronomy or environmental science, because we felt that a lot of that really came out of the bio/earth science, so you had that strong base. And then some students would go off to chem, and then after chem, you had the other option of going forensics or human bio as the other 2 electives that we offer. After that, we found out that people are branching off to either AP Bio or AP Environmental. We also then have physics regions and then AP Physics. So that's kind of like the structure that we have going. So I figured after going through that, I'd kind of highlight some of the electives that we have, because we do have a decent amount of electives, which I love in the science world. So our new teacher, Mr. Strosnitter, I think he's been doing a great job. He has an astronomy club. He has a good base in astronomy also, and he has an astronomy elective. He's really, he has a good group of kids in there right now, and you can hear the buzz going around, and it really looks like next year, hopefully, he gets a little bit more. The kids are really warming up to him. And he really has a good outreach going towards the Custer Institute, the observatory. So he has Steve Bellavia. He came over the other day. He was over there helping them. He's adjusting one of the mirrors to one of the telescopes that we have at the school. He has a good following of junior high kids. He does teach a 7th grade science class, but he has those kids coming in there. You talk astronomy, they love it. They're really, going in there. This, I really realize you really can't probably see it that well, but through their telescope, I got a good shot of Venus the other night. This is a really good shot from Steve's telescope of the sun with its sunspots on there, which the darker areas are the sunspot, and it really is showing you a decent amount of them. You really don't get that many. So that I thought was an awesome shot out of their solar filter. He has been having a few, he calls them star parties. They go outside. If there's something that's interesting that night and it's a clear night, they go in the back of the school. He has a few telescopes. I think we have like about 3 or 4 of them. And, he goes and points things out. There's a lot of things, guys, that we can see it with the nighttime sky, just using binoculars, your eye, and just knowing where to go. And that's the big key, like really knowing where to look, what's going on, getting your direction down. A lot of kids don't know, believe it or not, your compass direction. So just knowing that. So Mr. S, as we call him, he's been, I think, doing a great job.
How many kids are taking the astronomy?
Right now it's a little light. I believe it's around 15-ish. Is that right, Mrs. Smith, about that? Yeah. But I gotta say, after his thing is, getting into it, you could hear the talk. I'm gonna say probably next year, probably have another 5, maybe hopefully 10. But it seems to be moving on. But his club, I gotta say, is really, I'm hoping gonna grow that program because it's really moving up.
Yeah.
One of the things that, the board's gonna learn through these presentations is when we talk about our elective programs, based on us wanting to give a robust program and robust offering, it's gonna, we have to get comfortable with classes of 10 sometimes in some of these electives. We're, in certain areas, we're looking at potentially offering electives every other year, because it's becoming more and more challenging. We've offered more and more, and, with the enrollments going down, that is one of the ongoing challenges for us, so.
I will say though, on that note, when I get to like some of my electives, when it's so hands-on, sometimes it works to your advantage. I mean, like when you have that group of kids,
Yes.
and I'll get to it when I move through. So Mrs. Rulin's human bio and botany club, and she also has forensics, all right? She always does a spectacular job. Here's a few of her kids doing a bone intensity test. And then she had this was for her human bio going into forensics during the Halloween time. They did a little wound unit, which was pretty cool. The kids got a big kick out of that. In her botany club, I have the FFA, which I'll get into, but she has botany. She does more like houseplants and, basically identification. So she does some leaf pressing. So we'll work together because in FFA, we'll go out more greenhouse and grow vegetables and things of that nature. But we share a bunch of things and kind of share some of the same kids. Then we have the food science cooking class. This is McCarroll's class, all right? And I believe it's coming over to the science world next year. And, it's been moving along well, and I believe she's gonna get more into the food science portion of it next year. Then we have, the other elective would be environmental science, which is mine, and we have the FFA, which is Future Farmers of America. The FFA, I gotta say, this year has really grown. That's a small shot of it, if you can see it, but I think we're up to almost 25, 30 kids now. It's great. And especially with, all the different things which I'll show you as we go through, it's really starting to grow. It is nationally recognized, and if any kids are really getting into that avenue, there are good scholarships to go. Like presently right now, 2 of my students from last year, they're going to Cobleskill for forestry management and hatchery. So every year you're always getting a few kids going into that field, and especially with everything growing out here, I think it's a really important thing that they should see, and there's jobs that they can get.
And Eric, do you
Yeah.
have a lot of contacts with the local farmer community?
Fortunately, I've been here so long that all my students now run a farm somewhere or a winery, so or an oyster factory or something like that. So it's been working nice. So in the environmental class, we've been doing this for a while. We breed clownfish, which the kids love. So and again, it's all hands-on. So the fish on the right-hand side, that is the mother fish that we've been having for the last number of years, who's been breeding all of our clownfish. So when she gets on cycle, they have to get the temperature right, the salinity right. She'll lay eggs, and then it goes for 11 days, and the kids have to watch it, and then boom, they have to separate everything out and get their little, hatchery going, and they really get a kick out of it. And then they have to get their food right. So they have to actually grow an algae culture, which will feed the rotifers, which will then feed the baby clowns. So they're doing science without even knowing they're doing science, which it really works out well, and they really get attached to these fish. The 2 on the far left they're our newest cinnamon clowns from the spring hatch. We have not used any clownfish yet this year. We're dealing with trout right now, which is right there. The trout eggs we get from Cold Spring Harbor Fish Hatchery, and they come as an egg, and now they actually just started we had 2 or 3 hatch today. They're in the eyed stage, and you can see the body in the center one over there, but they have to cull them out every single day. The shot to the on the left, you'll see the white eggs. Those are the ones, they will die off. We got 600 eggs. We're hoping to get maybe half. On a good year, survive it. They stick together. They have to make sure the water temperature stays the same. There's a lot of things that kind of go wrong with it if they don't maintain it. So it's all kid run. They maintain it. I'll tell them where to go, but I usually have I'll call it a trout crew or the clownfish crew, and that's their job. They go in there and they tell everybody what to do for that section. The FFA has been coral farming.
Mr. Fern, what do you do with the trout when they come of age?
Oh, we release all the trout around April. We hopefully get them to be about that big, and then we go to Laurel Lake. Now, back to your Marituka, that would be awesome. If we can get to Marituka, we could do a little, it may not be cold enough. Laurel's cold and it's deep, but because they love 52-degree water. And a matter of fact, dealing with the club, I actually got a few kids to go up to Connecticut to actually go trout fishing because they didn't realize we actually had trout on Long Island. And they didn't realize they had it in Laurel Lake, and we stock it with about 100-odd fish a year. But yeah, that's where we put them. But yeah, Marituka would be great for just science testing, water testing, and all of that stuff, which would be awesome. FFA's been coral farming. Now, in the FFA, you can actually, like DECA for business, you could actually go state, your section, your state, and then nationals you can go for. Most are doing dairy farming, things that we don't do, all right? But we do this, and we do all right at it. And not a lot of schools, except I learned from the Southampton High School, but they don't have an FFA, how to coral farm and how to propagate it, how to split it. This is soft coral, it's the easiest one to learn. And then you can literally just like a plant, you know, just kind of pull it and move it around and you can get it to actually grow and go. Coral is very particular when it comes to its temperature, its salinity, everything in there. So again, they're learning the water chemistry, all on how it has to go. The lighting has to be right, the depth, everything. We're gonna eventually get into hard coral. Hard coral, as what you guys see on the news with like coral bleaching and everything, that's much harder to keep. So they gotta get good with it. But we are gonna pitch it as, you know, an event. And we're gonna, you know, when we actually get to there, we wanna throw it up to the state and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Because there are some other people who, you know, they're slowly getting into it. And it's big down in Florida, which they do have FFA. Aquaponics.
Eric,
Yeah.
have you thought about the kelp?
I would love to do kelp. We just need bigger tanks. But yes, I actually contacted Montauk Seaweed Company, who raised it for fertilizer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and Greg Metzger over in Southampton, they do something with the Goldberg Foundation in Stony Brook with kelp. But yeah, no, it's just need bigger tanks. But we do algae though, so it's kind of somewhat similar. Aquaponics has been rolling good. These are all our tomato plants in-house grown. I realize you can't see with the chairs, but we do have the goldfish and koi underneath. You know, their waste creates our tomato plants. Again, they're a little stringy and stuff like that, which we'll separate out. But again, it's been working, and the kids really like it. They can see that actually rolling. And then our greenhouse. The greenhouse is obviously, we love the greenhouse. It's been working well. And we've been growing it really, any type of lettuce, kale, things like that grows great. I really want to start using it maybe into the food science class or however that could be available, because we've been really growing a lot. Tomatoes are really working really well. In the wintertime, we really try to get to like a beet or something like that, because it's a little bit more hardy. And flowers, everyone's been loving it. But now, thanks to you guys, the heater is going to revolutionize the greenhouse that we have. We can actually now get that flowers maybe ready for like a Mother's Day thing or something like that, or in springtime, because we would start up in like April and it was a little slow going, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's June, and we'd harvest what we had, and it was great. But now we could really get those kids out there all year, which is perfect. So thank you very much. The kids thank you, because that is gonna, you know, all that hands-on, getting them out there, and they love that. And we can, try different things and experiment with just things that I know that are going to grow super fast. We can kind of get that long haul, something a little bit slower, and roll it that way. Questions?
I just have a question about the telescopes.
Yes.
You say you only have a few. Would you incorporate them in the budget this year?
Yeah, we did. Mr. S put in for 2 more. But yeah, he definitely will. And I'll actually tell him again maybe. And I know he did say there were some grants out there for some other telescopes.
Oh, that was my next question.
Yeah, no, thank you. And Steve said also that he had maybe some used stuff and things
Yeah.
like that, because they do get a little pricey.
Okay, thank you.
Any others?
Thank you.
Just,
Thank you guys.
actually,
Jeff has
one for me. So you mentioned, you know a lot of the farmers and oyster farmers and stuff like that. Do
Yep.
we have any internship program, or are any of these people looking for kids to help out?
I know Sang Lee is constantly asking me if, because Lucy and Will over there were like, hey, you guys know anybody who wants to work or come over here and do some stuff? So I know they're constantly asking, whether they go or not. But I do know some oyster farming, if they will do work over there. No one said internships, but I know to get hired to work. Cornell also in Southold they always have anything going. And the Stony Brook people, they have summer programs for internships.
Okay, great.
But yeah.
Eric, one other question about telescopes. Have you looked at the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn at all with your telescopes?
I have to ask Mr. Stroessner that one. I personally have not, but I'm sure he has looked at something. But I'll ask him. But yeah, he's pretty savvy with that stuff.
I've got a relatively low power. It's a surveying scope, And last year I was looking at the moons, at Jupiter, and you could see the moons, these little pinpricks of light around the moon. It's fascinating. And even Saturn, you can just barely see the rings of Saturn, and it's only a 30-pound scope, about 1.5 inches diameter.
That's pretty good, yeah.
But it was just blows your mind when you can see this.
No, it's good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Okay, Mr. Petretti, future capital reserve projects, 5-year plan.
Yes, that's very good.
Okay. Again, as promised last year, when we rolled out the 5-year plan, in a concrete form, we talked about that it was something that we were gonna have to revisit every year, and that it was gonna be a living, breathing thing, and that's proven to be more true than I realized at the time when I stood in front of you last year. The different things that are gonna influence and impact the plan. And so I'll go over it, kind of give you a bit of an update. Okay. Again, I think it's very important as we begin this conversation to go back to the mission statement. And when I stood in front of you last year, I spoke about how anything that's involved in that plan, we need to be able to tie it to something in the mission statement, that it's helping us achieve what it is that we set out to do. And, you know, there'll be things that you may question, or, you know, why or how is that a priority? Again, I ask that you go back to the mission statement and find a place where it lives within there. This is the wrong presentation.
This is the wrong.
It's 22, 23, should be 23, 24.
And this is a good presentation too, but this is. Yes. Okay. So like I was saying, mission statement. So at this time last year, I presented to the board the different items that we identified as needs, things that had to be addressed throughout the district. And again, this was based on an ongoing plan that we visited based on the architect's building condition survey, as well as input from the Board of Education and the administration. So I'm not going to go through the list, but you can see it's quite a number of items, and I think the board is fairly familiar with these items. Different things that we wanted to address at that time. A long list, and really when I stood in front of you last year, it seemed a little bit of a daunting task. Like, how are we going to accomplish all of this within 5 years? Both financially and then as well as taking on that work and the disruption that this work often has on our system. So again, as we reassess the plan, again, we talk about updating it annually, update some of the work that falls off, the things that get done. Additional things are going to come to light, things that are going to have to get done, unexpected things such as tornadoes that impacted our plan a little bit, a cyber attack this summer, and the impact it had on our technology infrastructure. A shift in priorities. As time goes, some of our priorities may shift, and that has to be fluid. You know, whether it's the board, the administration, or the community. And then what is our ability and means of addition to fund these projects? You know, that could always change, and we're seeing that. post-COVID, the economy, different things coming into play, and then unexpected costs and other hurdles, things that, we can't predict, are all things that come into play when we look at the plan. So, some of the projects that have been completed or in progress, and this is as of March 2020, this is when Mr. Kelly presented a 5-year plan to you guys at that point in time. So since that time, repairs have been done at the high school, the sidewalk, the high school multi-purpose room has been completed. We did work on our sidewalks at Cutchogue East. New boilers were put in at Cutchogue West. Cutchogue East fencing along the one perimeter was done. We renovated field here at the high school that came out beautifully. Cutchogue East, we did a rip and replace on a section of the roof near the entrance. Again, that was something that we were trying to do, but we couldn't get the materials. That work was finally done. We put new burners in at the junior high school. The original plan talked about doing the boilers and the burners. We were able to just do the burners, saving us a significant amount of money. The BMS system in the high school has been done. That was completed this spring. Mr. Kelly has reported to me that traditionally, when we would get our oil fills in the winter, and it's been fairly warm, but we've had to get oil refills at the high school, it was almost always in line with the junior high. And since the new BMS system has been put in, this allows us to control temperatures in each room, turn it on and off based on temperature, then also he's able to monitor the temperatures in the room from home. So we've had oil deliveries at the high school where we've not had to have oil deliveries at the junior high school. So we don't have an exact cost savings as of yet. We really need to get through the winter, but we're seeing an impact with that BMS system. Our oil tanks for the high school were fitted with fiberglass covers. The walking trail at Cutchogue East was completed. District-wide technology upgrades, some planned and some necessitated. That was a $600,000 project. We've been chipping away at that, some through the budget and then some through the cyber attack this summer where we had to upgrade all of our firewalls. That was a necessity. That wasn't planned for. That work was done. We've done the track recoding and repairs. The high school STEM wing renovation, again, it's been voter approved. The planning is in progress. That work is beginning to happen. And part of the roof at Cutchogue East has been coated. Again, that was voter approved last spring. So that work has all been done. It's really quite impressive when you look at all of it. This is an aerial of the walking trail at Cutchogue East. The track has been redone at the high school. Blueprint of the STEM wing renovation. And this is the part of the roof that was recoated in Cutchogue East. So again, for our timeline considerations as we plan ahead for the next 5 years. Our priorities and funding drive that timeline. Our goal is to get as much of the anticipated projects completed before there would be any consideration of taking out a bond. We do not want to borrow money and pay interest to get some of these projects done. We're going to go after these projects using our annual budgets where we can, our repair reserves, budget balances at the end of the year, as well as our capital reserve that we're funding, trying to fund on an annual basis. But again, this timeline will have to be fluid. So what's changed since last year besides the work getting done? Some things that have changed. The Board of Education has deemed that a solar project is not feasible at this time. So this is a big component of the plan that is now fallen off. We received an inspection report on the Cutchogue East playground, recommending that the playground be replaced before the start of the next school year. So again, we talked about the playground. It was somewhere further down the timeline. We've had to move that up. Mr. Friend just sat here and talked about the heating option for the greenhouse. That was a $200,000+ item that was on the plan. Now with the heating, let's see how that works, and if it's effective as we hope it to be, that's a large item, a large ticket item that we can take off the plan as well.
Just to clarify, we didn't spend that kind of money for.
No, that heating system
Right.
was top 18,000.
Right.
So like, that's a great gamble. So these are the things that we're trying to do, right? And when we talk about our plans being fluid, if we have an $18,000 fix and we're able to work in that space year round, then it's a win. If it doesn't work out, our plan would be, we could put the greenhouse back on, and then we would use that heating system in the pole barn that's out back, where, you know, our machinery is, our guys are out there working and doing repairs and stuff in the winter, so we could just move it there, it would be a loss. You know, we are experiencing some financial instability, you know, right now, that we know are gonna impact our future budgets. It's gonna impact the cost of doing some of these projects. Our anticipated revenues may not be what we were hoping they were gonna be. You know, and these things will, you know, impact our fund balance. You know, I sat here last year, we talked about some projections. Those projections, I can tell you now, are not gonna be at the level we were projecting this time last year, and that's a fact. Our health insurance costs have gone up exponentially this year alone. It's gonna be a $300,000 cost for our employee health benefits. Next year, we anticipate it's gonna be about a $600,000 increase. Those are funds that we had slated, that we anticipated we might see, be able to use for some of these projects. Our fuel costs have gone through the roof. Our transportation costs, as you know, are up. Our special education placements, you know, that's fluid, they're never guaranteed. A lot of times, we take tuition students in and we make money, it's a revenue for us. Things happen and we already know that we're not gonna have that revenue to the next year at the level that we had this year. We also have some high-need students in district that are gonna get outside placements. And these are big ticket items that are gonna impact our budgets. TRS and ERS contributions, we know are gonna go up, you know, significantly. So these are some of the things that are coming into play and some of the adjustments that we'll see going forward. Again, just trying to show you some of those pictures. So really, based on our plans and the work that we've gotten done, these are still the items that we need to address in the next couple of years. Roof replacement's the wrong word, it's the roof recoating at Cutchogue East. There's still work to be done there, and we have to address the high school. Again, these are maintenance issues. These are not nice to do's, these are have to do's. We have to continue with the technology infrastructure upgrade. There's a bit over $200,000 that still needs to be done so that we can depend on our technology at the level we are now in all of our buildings. The tennis court. At some point in time, we're going to have to address the tennis courts. We keep doing annual repairs, but you know, it's on the radar, something to look at. The playground replacement at Cutchogue East. The classroom bathroom renovations at Cutchogue East. We've talked about an additional field renovation at the high school, allowing more of our teams to stay here and play here. Right now, we have the one field that's been renovated. But if all of our teams are using it year-round, it's not going to be the field that it is today. You know, it's a beautiful playing surface, and we'd like to continue with that. The front of the junior-senior high school facade, we're going to have to address that at some point in time. The multi-stall bathroom renovations at Cutchogue East. We talked about a construction of a new pole barn at Cutchogue East to house some of our equipment there. Univents in the junior high classrooms, conversion from steam to hot water in our junior high classrooms. Again, we have the BMS system, but we're still operating, you know, the elements that are heating the classroom are still antiquated. And then Cutchogue West, again, it's something that we keep putting to the bottom of the list, but it is one of our buildings and it needs to be maintained. The windows and the bathrooms are, you know, we have to address them. We can't ignore them much longer. So some other things that have come up, like you said, it's going to be fluid. You know, after I presented last year, I got a lot of questions from families, from parents, as well as staff, about air conditioning on the second floors of both Cutchogue East and the junior-senior high school. And I'll be honest with you, my stance on air conditioning has always been, that's a bit of a luxury item. That, you know, that's not a have to do. but things have changed. COVID's been one of them, right? So the circulation of air. At the same time, our safety protocols, you know, no bad guys ever gotten into a locked classroom. We know that as a fact. That's something that's stressed all the time, anytime we bring in, you know, specialists or go through security policies. So we've asked our teachers to keep their doors shut. On those hot days, we've told the teachers, you can open the doors because it just gets stifling. So if we're really gonna walk our talk as far as safety and security procedures, we do really have to consider air conditioning in those areas. These are big ticket items. Mr. Kelly gave me, you know, an estimate of about $720,000 for Cutchogue East and close to $1.3 million at the junior senior high school. That's just to do the second story classrooms. They get significantly hotter than the first floor. Okay? And then the little basketball courts. Community member went to Ms. Anderson and said, the courts are pretty bad, could you look into it? And we did. And the cracks there were pretty bad. Mr. Kelly had our guys go over and do the repairs at a minimal cost, and the repairs are decent. But Mr. Delargy and myself, we were over there yesterday looking at the courts, and we got a little bit of a history lesson. There are a couple plaques sitting there with some information about how those courts came about. They're not in awful shape. You know, we probably could get by maintaining them for a little bit, but you know, that started getting us to ask questions. And those courts are used. They're used. I found that they're used more than I thought they were being used. Some of our kids use them in the summer as part of, you know, the summer league. They'll go there to practice. It's just easy to access, as well as a lot of community members. The men's league use them, and different folks within the community are using those courts. Those courts also came about. It was a joint effort from the Mapleton Park District, the school district, and the Civic Association, and Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, Sean.
Yeah.
And maybe we should put a little arm twisting on the chamber to see about upgrading them.
Quite possibly. I mean, when you look, there's a long list of whether it was donations and contributions from residents of the district, or whether it was from businesses or corporate. But obviously, the funding source came from a lot of different directions to make that happen. So
The chamber came to us and asked us if they could put it in, and we said, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, the chamber coordinated everything or paid for it all.
Yeah,
But-
so,
But the problem now is if since it's on our property, it's our
yes.
liability.
Sure,
So,
but
We
that
gotta
doesn't
do
mean we
something.
can't ask the chamber to, since they put it in, let's do some repairs.
You learn two things. It's being used more than I thought. It certainly has a value to our community and our students.
right.
So it's something that I feel that we should maintain, or see to it that it gets maintained. You know, how we go about doing that, you know, again, I put it on your radar tonight.
Yep.
Okay, it's something that, you know, we should revisit, but right now, Mr. Delargy, it's not, I don't think it's a liability. The repairs our guys did, you know, they're good for now, but like the tennis courts, it's gonna be hot and cold. At some point in time we do. I think we have some time to figure out a way that we can go about, you know, appropriately addressing. So these are some new items to consider. So going through, you know, to be done now, this is already voter approved, is the STEM wing renovation. That work will take place this summer, really actually the beginning of the end of the school year. If you talk to the teachers in those spaces, they're doing the work already. There's a lot of packing up, there's a lot to get done, and they're heavily involved in the process. So for our budget vote in May, again, explained to the board last year, there'll be two items on the ballot, two referendums on the ballot each year. One is going to be our annual vote, and the other is going to be the permission to expend funds from our capital reserve. So we know that we need to complete the work at Cutchogue East, and we need to go after the high school and complete that work. So we anticipate going into the capital reserve for $4.2 million to get that work done in the roofs. We have that money in the capital reserve now, so we know we can get that done. The Cutchogue East Playground this year. It might be something that we have the funds to do with monies that are in the budget for this school year and get that work done during the summer.
Sean, that's also another liability issue because of the report that we received saying that they recommend it to be replaced. So if we don't replace it and there's a problem, we have a problem.
This is correct.
All right, so it's a high priority.
And then our technology upgrades, as Ms. Urrea was explaining to me, again, when you start talking technology, I get a little lost on some of it. But we could do things in a couple different pieces, but really what would happen is your high school would be operating on one system, your elementary school on another. We'd be doing it piecemeal. We really don't want to do that. Our recommendation is that we put it in the budget for next year. So this, again, as we're building the budget now, this work has happened, as of today. All of our departments and buildings have submitted their budgets. Mr. Delargy and I will be going over it the next couple of weeks to determine, all put together, what does it look like, and now start trimming it down and engaging the board in a conversation of priority items and, what kind of number we want to come in at. But for some of the upgrades right now, in this present year, there was about $190,000 for some of those upgrades, so that work will fall off, and we'll try to fit this into the budget and get that done. And this would be the end of that technology upgrade project that we were talking about. So that's for this May. Going forward, again, these are recommendations, open to input from the board, but that we would go and look again to get permission from the taxpayers for about $1.3 million that we could pull out of the capital reserve to do the high school field renovation. And at that point in time, I think we have to address the front of the high school as well. That's a big number project that we know that we have to do. And my recommendation is that we take that on while we know that we have the finances to do it. So that's why I moved that there.
Sean, for the facade, if I recall that quote, we've had that for a while. Do you know, is that still a realistic estimate for it, the 874?
That was the last time that we had them look at that.
That was from our architects, so obviously the price is probably going up some. Probably 3 years old by now, but yeah, COVID price is going up, so I would say that's close to 2 now. Or
Close to what?
Oh, I'm sorry, the front, the building.
The facade?
Yeah, you're close to $1 million, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're close to $1 million.
Scary. You never know these days, right? So, and again, a lot of these numbers, by the time we get to these projects, right, it's been a little crazy.
The STEM wing, the first quote you gave, that was from the current capital reserve we have?
Yes, that money's already been earmarked and,
voted.
is,
Right.
that's done.
So this is all,
This would be in the future, this would be next year's vote, not even this coming spring.
Right,
This
and then
is
they have to vote on the
potentially
project.
the following spring, that we would be talking about doing this. So, your classroom, toilet renovations, that's something that we feel like we could probably, again, that piece of technology is done. Now maybe we can put some other things on our annual budget as well, such as that. Possible tennis court reconstruction at that time, but, again, tennis courts are okay, then I wouldn't recommend we tackle it at that point in time, but it's something that we do have to keep an eye on. We had some weird things happen with it last year that we hadn't had happened in the past. So I don't know if that's an indication that we may have to do something bigger in the near future. But that's something that, again, we could look at our budget balance at the end of the year and do something there, or put it in a future budget at that point in time. Again, it's hard to predict this far out, but keep working towards it. When we get to May of 2025, I think that's the time to tackle Cutchogue West. And we can pull that 600,000, yes, that reserve to address those things. And again, if we don't get to the tennis courts that year, we might almost definitely have to get to them this year. So I moved that down, but to keep it on there. And when we come to 2026, believe it or not, outside of 3 big items, this would be the last item on our list. If this was something that we felt that we still wanted to do at that point in time, and we would anticipate that we would have the funds in the capital reserve to do that, you know, still at that point in time, to get the pole barn put up. And then in the future, again, we don't know how we're going to be able to fund that capital reserve. We put a cap of 10 million on it. We're not sure we can definitely get to that. But in the event that we can, some of these things probably get knocked off with capital reserve money. And some of these other things might get pushed out. You know, again, we talked about the bond falls off in 2030. You know, if there were some big needs, would we want to do with the bond at that point in time, or would we not? We might be able to, again, just do it in other ways. You know, again, it's very hard right now to project out that far. You know, I know I had done that last year. It's something Mr. Wolfhard said, you really probably shouldn't put numbers like that up. When you put numbers up like that, people think that they see that number and they anticipate and think that that will definitely be there, but there's too many unknowns. So,
Just Sean, or maybe for Tom, on the univents, is that something that we're eventually going to have to do, or we can just keep repairing them if they break, or is that just the whole system being replaced?
The univents, and again, Tom, you can jump in, that has to do with airflow, and, you know, we have it in any of our newer areas. The junior high does not have, you know, the same capacities as the other areas. They're dated.
Yeah, the original from 1934. So
It's, yeah.
you have them all up and running officially now, but the work really be out front. You have to cut into the bricks to make wire, and right now we're at the lines. If you do any work to that, you have to bring it up to the new codes. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
And the new unit, similar to what we installed into the high school cafeteria, the unit would be with the air conditioners, what we talked about for the upstairs. The unit would be heat and air conditioning as well.
Is that like the split unit? Is that like the split unit that, I think I remember?
Split unit.
No.
The units, if you look at the high school cafeteria, those units are also air conditioners, so that's what we need to do in each classroom. So it won't be a split unit, it will be heat, air conditioned, unit.
Okay.
How would that affect air purification?
I'm sorry.
Air purification, and would that have an effect?
Getting back to that, then you put the new filters into those, so the system we have now can't handle those filters. So
Right.
it's too much of a strain on our system where we can't do it best from our architect and from our heating expert. Can't put those into our system now. So we lean towards these new units, we do those type of filters in.
So that's something to consider.
So, again, I don't have air conditioning. I didn't put this on the list. You know, that's something, you know, for the board to discuss and make a decision on about where might we want to put that in. They are some big ticket items. And then again, if we were to go to univents in the junior high, then we wouldn't air condition that this part of the building. That would be part, you know, that would come with new univents. So let's go back, right, because we're getting very close to decision-making time. You know, this is the recommendation for items to tackle this May,
Now,
this spring.
I have a question on timing. Right now, we have enough in the capital reserve to do all of these 4 projects?
Yes.
All right. However, you mentioned that the playground and the technology upgrades we might be able to do within budget.
Yep.
Timing of determining whether we can do that within budget, and if so, it comes off, which means we have some more funds in the capital reserve, would we be able to do another project?
We would have a better grasp of how much we could anticipate, you know, whether we would have budget balance or whether that, we'll know whether or not that technology upgrade fits into our annual budget, probably by February.
So that gives us enough time to add something else if we can handle it.
And add it to the goals, we could do that.
All right, great, great. The other, well, I'm fine with these 4 recommendations being the next priority. I think that's prudent, especially the roof. That roof's, that's a no-brainer, that has to be done. Because if we delay that and part of that roof gets moisture, then we can't recoat, and we have to do a rip and replace, and it's more expensive. So that's imperative. Anyone else have any questions? Because I want to jump to the next year.
What did we do last summer with the roofs? Didn't we do something?
We did. Last summer, we got a lot of the work done at Cutchogue East,
Okay,
but not all of it.
okay.
So we used, again, we had moved money from the repair reserve,
Yes.
and we had some money in capital reserve. We tapped that out.
Okay.
Used as much as we had left to do the
Oh,
work at
that's
Cutchogue
right.
East, as well as the stem wing.
Okay,
And then we created the new reserve and began to fund it with money from repair reserve and then, budget balance from last year.
okay.
Right, so I know it's still kind of early to know if we'll have the 300,000 to do the Cutchogue East playground. When will we have a better idea, and do you think we'll have time to get it done over the summer? Do we need state approval for any of this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd have a very good grasp, once you get through the winter season, February, March time, then you would definitely have enough time, because I think they've already done some of the pre-planning on what they would like to do, Amy, with your group. You wouldn't have a problem. And also, it doesn't cause you to get any additional permits from what you're doing, because you're not doing anything to your footprint of the building.
Okay.
So it would be a project you could run easily during summertime to get it completed.
And vendors are available? I'm just concerned we might end up starting school without a playground.
Oh, well, I think they've already had
Yeah.
discussions
Yeah,
looking at
okay.
that, so I don't think that would be an issue.
Yeah, we
And
had
do you
a
need
playground
state
committee
approval?
and the vendor was there.
Do you need state approval on?
Not for that,
No?
no.
Okay.
If we're able to move 1 or 2 of these projects to the budget, what would you propose next, trying to squeeze into this one?
So if we were able to get the technology upgrades into our budget
Right.
for next year and get this stuff done in the spring, you know, these are the recommendations for going to 2024.
All right, so do you have an opinion on which one you would want to put in? Because we can't do them all.
I think we can tackle these in 2024.
No, I'm sorry. If we're able to move the technology to budget excess
Yes, not budget exit, that would be in the budget for next year.
for next year, but then we would have some funds in the capital budget, the capital surplus, that we could possibly add another project to the
We're
vote.
talking about potentially moving one of these. Again, we want to pace ourselves,
Okay,
you know, a little bit.
that's what I was trying to get
Yeah.
before.
And, you know, so the reality is, you know, when, I don't want to, say things start to go south financially for us. We're gonna take that high school field renovation, and that's off the plan.
Right.
You know, so I don't want to start moving things, you know, forward
Okay,
if we really need to save the money for some of the bigger projects that have to get done, but we don't have the capacity to do.
all right. So what you're recommending, and I think I agree with you, that these are the 4 projects that we want to get done this year. All 4 might be capital surplus, or 2 or 3 would be capital surplus, and then 1 or 2 would be put into the budget.
Correct.
Okay. following year,
But,
yes.
okay,
Go ahead.
okay, no, no, no.
All right. The following year, you have these 4 items. I question why we are not considering Cutchogue West. I mean, I've been there. And I believe there's been discussions that those windows are also a safety issue. They're also a heating issue, and the bathrooms are atrocious. Are the Cutchogue East bathrooms as bad as Cutchogue West bathrooms?
No, there's nothing
No,
nearly
no
as
way
bad
near.
as the Cutchogue West.
I believe from a safety, from a heat cost, and from a need basis, that those 2 items should be moved to this year.
We could, again, it's, when you're coming up with these plans, it's very hard to put something in an administrative building. And I love the administrative team, girls can get me tomorrow, but, that impacts students. And, so that's, the Cutchogue East classroom toilets, yeah, they could probably go off, but that's not gonna cover. When you talk about a high school field renovation, that our kids are gonna be playing on, every year you put that off, that's another year that the kids didn't have access to utilize. And the facades, gotta get done while we have the funds to do it,
Now, on the facade, there's been some conversation that this figure, and it's probably a little higher now, is to do all the intricate work. There is an alternative that we don't do such intricate work, and we do necessary work to it, which was considerably cheaper. I mean, are we at that point that we need to possibly consider that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, because the money's there to do it right. So that would be my recommendation. This is a point of pride in this community. And I think we owe it to the community to do it right. And the work that we'd be doing, that's forever work.
Can I ask about the,
Well, we're sitting here next year, we're talking about the 2024 vote, and our tennis courts are in good shape, and maybe we take the Cutchogue East classroom toilets off, and then we go and we put Cutchogue West work on. Future timelines are not as pressing, we need to always keep looking at, what's happening in the spring.
Right.
What we're voting on.
and with the technology that was proposed, that's so that the 2 schools talk to each other with the technology?
They're just running on the same system.
For what? For
I
like,
told Kelly, I said, if the questions come about, the switches and what we're doing, I may defer to her, because she speaks to it far more intelligently than I do.
okay.
In July, our wireless controller is end of support. So what that means is we no longer get updates to it, and updates are very important in terms of security. In addition to that, we won't be able to contact Cisco if we do have a problem with our wireless. So with this project, what we would be doing is doing a cloud-based wireless controller. So we're just replacing our end-of-life controller with a new one, but then we also need the access points, which are the little white squares in the ceilings, to communicate with them. So if I don't do both at the same time, we're gonna have the high school on the old controller that doesn't have support and that could potentially go down. So that means that the high school could potentially have no wireless internet.
Okay.
So by doing it combined, now you're both on the same system. So
Yeah,
it's
no.
easier to manage as well as it's safer for the district and for the network.
Okay, no, that makes sense. It's just with the amount of money that we have spent on technology, it's baffling to me that they won't do upgrades for us and, do that, but, and that we'd have to spend that kind of money again, but, okay.
But the technology, it typically lasts 3 to 5 years, and that's kind of how the companies get you. You have to replace the technology as the new technology comes out,
Okay,
because it's no longer supported, and that's the important part.
right.
That
Well,
you keep up with it.
yeah. All right, well, thank you.
All right, so Actually, there's really not a lot of need to talk about some of these, 24 and 25 yet, because next year, this could all change. So if we back up to what we need to do this spring, I guess I would ask, does anybody have an issue with moving forward with these 4 projects as our projects to do for this year?
I'd like to see us repair more on the playground at Cutchogue East. And for, yeah,
I
for.
don't think you can.
Huh?
I don't think you can.
No, we can't, there's a liability
Not with the
issue.
report.
There's a liability, but if we do the repairs and get it inspected and get the approval. Now, we've already done some repairs, which, Tom, your team did well, like I saw.
I mean, from
We
my
can
understanding.
do the repairs for 10 or 20,000. It's a whole lot better than the 300,000 if they'll inspect it and give us a clearance.
But the problem was, we couldn't get somebody that would give us an inspection to be able to get the assurance.
We need an approved builder for playground equipment.
I think
But I
some of
don't know if that
this
stops
stuff's
us from doing it ourselves and have it inspected.
We did bring, I called in 3 different companies. The problem is the playground company is out of business, so you can't get the parts, and it has to be the exact wood. You just can't go to Home Depot, replace it, because that's a liability for us. So no one will touch our playground to do the repairs. They absolutely said, once they do any work to it, it's on them, so they won't do it. So the 3 companies we called in refused to do the work. So that's when we thought that's just getting by the street, doing repairs, so we're already liable with our playground. So we did the repairs this year. But moving forward, something happens, now that we know this, we are liable.
Especially with the report, the inspection report that we have.
And there's no reason that we can't meet the standards out of that report. Tom, the wood doesn't have to be replaced because you shored it up underneath, and we do more of that. We can leave the wood. The repairs are so simple. If you're gonna save the better part of $300,000, and we want more money to take care of some of the other projects,
We went there and toured it. I don't
Yes.
really agree that they're all simple repairs. There's a lot that I was,
And if you can't get the parts to make those repairs,
Well,
and you
and
can't get
it's-
people to come and do the repairs, it kind of signals to me that maybe we should be
it's not the question
replacing.
of not getting the parts. It's,
No, that's
the
what he
the
just
worst part was the wood tread where you walk. And to a large extent, that was fixed by our guys. If you read the report, the other thing is, the slides want to be filled in at the top where the slides meet the structure. And the report recommended, some kind of filler. And that's easy to do. It's really minor stuff, and the amount of money it's gonna save.
I agree with you on a lot of that, because I toured it, and I was surprised that the recommendation is we have to replace it, all right? But my big issue is, if we don't get a report that tells us it passes and it's safe, then we can't repair it, because if we repair it to what we think is safe, but we don't have a report that tells us that.
You're not listening, George. Repair it and have it inspected again. And then
By
see what the
who?
reports, have it inspected by the same people that inspected it. If we get the report saying, yes, your repairs are good, and we'll approve it. If you can save best part of $300,000 of taxpayer money, I think it's worth it. If we put in 10,000 with the possibility of saving 300,000, I think it's worth it.
Is that a possibility?
Tom, would that company come back and re-inspect? If
We've had that company come, they can do it first, they will come back and re-inspect it, I don't think that's going to change. Unless we do all those repairs, we just can't get a company to do them.
But if our guys did,
We did do the repair, we jacked it up, but, I mean, these reporters were report.
Right.
We have them back out, we look at it.
I believe that's what Mr. Cooper's asking, you know, would they be willing to come back out after we did the repairs?
We're due for our another inspection, and then more earlier, for sure.
All right, let's do that.
Let's do that, but let's keep moving full steam ahead, because
Yeah.
if that doesn't fly, we have to be
No, we
ready
have to
to
be
build
ready
a
to go.
playground in September, in the
Understood.
summer.
So if it fails inspection based on the work that's been done, we're going to go with a new playground. Yes.
I don't know that you have a choice.
I just had a question. What was their recommendation for the inspection on this report?
On the latest report was that the playground be replaced.
And then last year, when we got the report, was it also deteriorating?
It's coming to the end of the project, it's also into it, and this year it's not.
So this wasn't the first year that we got a report like this?
No.
No.
Really strong, the language is strong.
Okay. I'm gonna say we continue with the new playground because it is deteriorating. Every year, more and more is
And
happening.
I'm just looking at, I mean, this is not till 2026, but we're gonna spend 350 on another pole barn and not 300,000 on that playground.
I don't care if we spend it on a pole barn, right? It's whether the district wants a pole barn.
What I
That's
can
all.
do-
That's-
Storage,
What I can do is I can,
Storage for
Yes,
their equipment.
yes.
what I can do is I can poll the board, and I could ask who wants to go with a new playground now, or who wants to see if we can get it, inspected and see. I can do that.
If there's the possibility of saving the best part of 300,000, I think of taxpayer money, I think would be
Well,
short-sighted not to look at
And
it.
let's just clarify that statement, if I
Yeah.
may. It's not saving, it's deferring. At some point, we're gonna
You're
need to
gonna get a
replace the
new
playground.
playground.
And just the cost, the quote we got, they are honoring that? Or this year, if we move forward with it?
We're looking to work within the scope of that price. You know, we haven't, the committees, I said, form a committee, begin making plans, but this is how much money you have. You know, because, yeah, it could move, you know, we asked, what's the general cost to replace that playground? And at the time, it was about $300,000. So, you know, as we do the designs, you know, as these things happen, I expect a grandiose plan to come forward. You know, and then we have to be realistic in what we do and, you know, the expectations of it, so.
But this new playground would also be more accessible for all students as opposed to kind of piecemeal as we are now? I think that's.
I think
Potentially, that would be part of the
I
plan.
really do
yeah.
think we should poll the board, Doug, because there's discussion, but we need to know if we're gonna move forward or not. So Jen, you wanna move forward, or do you wanna have it re-inspected?
Move forward with the new playground.
Karen?
Move forward.
Jeff?
Since I think we're gonna have to do it anyway, I would say continue to move forward, but if they're coming out to, Tom, are they gonna inspect it again this year?
We usually have that done during the summer.
Okay.
But we can have that done sooner.
If, yeah, it seems like eventually we need to do this, so since we've started,
Sure, I mean, I have copies of that report, I mean, I can give you copies and you can share with the whole board if you have.
The whole board's seen them.
yeah, I mean, I think if it passed inspection, it might buy us a year or two, but I think eventually we need to do it and we have the funds, so I'm in favor of moving forward.
I think if we can buy a couple of years, I'm more concerned on the legal issue. So I have no problem as long as the project's moving forward to go this route and then make a decision. So I'm fine with that.
Okay. Mary Lynn?
I mean, I think our utmost responsibility is the safety of the children, and from when we toured it, and from what I heard and saw in the report, I'm in favor of moving forward, because I think it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, so.
And I'm in favor of moving forward because of the fact that this is the second inspection, the first one giving us a heads up that we're at the end of life, and this one being
It's 20
end of
years.
life. Yeah, so I think we can go forward with it.
The facility looks, the framework of it
Right.
Right.
is so, how we use the word pristine, so in such good shape,
Yeah.
that some minor repairs to it, as long as they'll inspect it again and give us an okay. Now, we all agree that the insurance liability is gonna be an issue. But if it's fixed, we're not buying a couple of years. We'll be buying another 10 or 15 years. Because the framework, yes, because the framework is so good, it's just repairing the walkways and supporting them enough.
No, there's rust though on a lot of the
Yeah.
poles.
There's very little rust. There was one area that was rusted, and I believe our guys painted that.
But even that's what is that last year, a year or two? I
Yeah.
mean, we could, yeah.
But let them inspect it and see. Let us make repairs and see. If you wanna, if you were always talking about how much money we're spending and how much things cost. Well, here's a spot where we can save the best part of 300,000.
Yeah, but if we do it this year, even if it's 2 years from now, it's gonna cost twice as much to get it done. And the report is that we need it, and that there's a liability. I don't really know why there's even a conversation.
I'd say with the way the board just voted, don't have the company come out
No,
again,
that's what I said.
if that's the vote. Yep,
Okay, got that?
got it.
Charlie, you're gonna get us a grant for this playground, right?
Charlie, I'll help you. I'll help you. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to adopt the Board of Education goals. The Board of Education met in a retreat. We maintained the goals that we had. They're up on the website. And the only change was one of the committees, we now call the Policy and Legislative Committee, the Policy, Legislative, and Community Relations Committee, so that we can attempt to get more community members involved in the processes that we go through on a daily basis. So that's that. I don't need a motion for that. So we go on to teacher tenure recommendations. Mr. Superintendent. I couldn't think of it.
Getting late. Mrs. Allegro is gonna read the tenure recommendation.
After eight.
Oh my God.
Good evening, everybody.
I was done, I'm hanging out with you too much. Sorry, Meredith.
That's okay. It is with great pleasure that I write this letter of recommendation on behalf of Rebecca Szymanski. Rebecca started her journey in special education within the Mattituck-Cutchogue School District in September of 2015 as a teaching assistant. She alternated between the roles of a teaching assistant and leave replacement until she began her probationary position as a special education teacher in January of 2019. Over the past 3 years, Rebecca has found her home as an integrated teacher in the junior high. Rebecca is a supportive special education teacher who consistently meets the needs of all of her students. Her passion for teaching has driven her to stay current in best practices, which in turn has motivated her to participate in many different professional development opportunities. She has been an integral part of the MTSS committee, working with her colleagues to develop a comprehensive intervention plan. Rebecca has always been willing to chaperone trips, deepening her relationships with the students, and was co-advisor of the Junior High Student Council. Sorry, it's hard. Rebecca is a thoughtful educator who is committed to meet the needs of all of her students. She has established positive and effective co-teaching partnerships with all of her colleagues. Rebecca is collegial, passionate, kind, hardworking, and dedicated. Based upon my observations of Rebecca in the classroom, at parent meetings, and in conversations, I know that Rebecca is going to continue to be a successful educator in the Mattituck-Cutchogue School District. I recommend Rebecca for tenure effective January 1st, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I need a motion to vote on the teacher tenure recommendation.
So moved.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion? All approved. Okay, Board of Education Committee reports. Audit and Finance, Mr. Hobbs.
Okay, yes, Audit and Finance met last week. In attendance was Mr. Superintendent. Charlie, how do you pronounce your name?
Delarkey.
Delargy, okay. Jennifer Anderson, myself, and Jeffrey Connolly. The first issue we discussed was the position of central treasurer and the need for this position. Over the last 3 years during the audit, we've been written up with respect to our extra curricular funding, and setting up this position of central treasurer will enable us to manage that and put in place what's needed so that we don't get written up again. This position will be added to the deputy treasurer's position responsibilities, and we'll have the wherewithal to be able to put things in place to make sure this gets done properly. We received $5,800 from the school bus stop program grant. This was our percentage of the funds that were raised by Suffolk County?
Yes.
Suffolk County, with respect to the bus cameras. I guess the more money we make, the more tickets are being given out.
Well, there were so many tickets, I'm shocked it's only that much money.
But
Well, it's split.
Are you really?
No.
We also discussed the Just Kids agreement and the need that we had to put in a new parking lot over there. We finally got an estimate that was agreeable of $45,000. As a matter of fact, things move so quickly that it is in place. In our discussions with Just Kids on how to share the cost of this lot, it led to a discussion on the need for extra space for Just Kids at Cutchogue East. And we're having discussions with them of an extra classroom, which should help with the waiting list that Just Kids have for their program, so which will be benefiting to our families also. We also discuss Title II and COVID funds that we've received. With respect to the COVID funds, we used most of that for our after-school and summer extra help programs. Those programs have been funded by these funds last year and this year. And there is a discussion of including it in our budget for next year because of the value that these after-school and summer programs have provided. So that will be part of our budget discussions when we get to that. We also had Title I funds of $45,000, which was slated for AIS reading teacher, and the Title II funds for professional development. We had a discussion on internal audit, and interviews with staff was supposed to occur this week. Did that start?
Yes, there was interviews on Wednesday, and then there's, that was regarding the business functions, and then tomorrow there's an interview with payroll.
Great. Every meeting, we do discuss the 5-year plan, and I won't go into that much further. I also asked for the claims report to be handed out at the Audit and Finance Committee meeting so that it can be looked at prior to the board. So if that report's available prior to our meeting, it will be part of the meeting. One thing I forgot to ask last week, I know we had discussions of interest rates with one of our banks, Flushing.
Flushing, yes.
And, you know, got a decent rate. And we were having another conversation with Capital One. Have we moved some of the funds that we have to Flushing at the higher rate yet?
Yeah, the reserve money that we have is already in Flushing.
Okay, and when do we think we're gonna have an answer on Capital One?
Well, we have to wait for the person to come back from vacation, which I believe is December 19th, and then we're gonna see.
Because right now,
I don't know if she's really gonna want the priority to be that email to answer when she comes back on vacation. But hopefully we'll be able to set up a meeting with a discussion before the Christmas break to set up a meeting at, sometime in January.
how much in funds do we have with Capital One right now?
Well, Capital One is a lot of your flow-through monies that go through. So some of your larger reserves are with Flushing. Capital One is set up with your flow-through monies on payroll and that. So
Where's the TAN money?
TAN money is now in Flushing.
Flushing? All right, great. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, George. Doug, Building and Grounds?
Yeah, just, Charlie, the TAN for next year, with interest rates being higher, we're gonna be paying more.
You never know.
This is true. But, yeah, any projection on what we are currently paying, what rate we're paying now and foreseeable for next year?
Well, the way it goes with the Federal Reserve, as you can see, they've, I think it was 7 times they raised interest rates over the course of this year. I don't see them doing that again the following year, or else we might be moving to a different country. But again, I would say one of the strategies we did this year was breaking up the different time frame that we had. Instead of taking out the TAN for the full year, paying back in June, we split it because we looked at the cash flow and found out ways in which to pay off part of it earlier. Whenever our monies come in from the taxes on homes that comes from the towns, we would then pay off part of the TAN earlier. Interest rates, if you were doing it right now, would probably be a percentage higher, or 1.5% higher than what we ended up receiving. But quite frankly, what the Fed is trying to do would give us a number probably similar to this. And if I could predict it any better, I'd be in, well, maybe the Bahamas isn't a good thing to say.
No, not right now.
Somebody did go to the Bahamas, maybe we'd try, Costa Rica or one of the other islands. So.
Stop there, Charlie.
Thank you.
Okay.
The Building and Grounds met and discussed several things, much of which has gone over already tonight. The greenhouse heat has been put in, and today they turned it on. I had the opportunity to see it turn on, and it felt good. It'll be interesting to see whether it will heat the greenhouse at night. It's a heat pump, which is the easiest way we could put heat into it. And the real question is going to be at night temperatures, and I think we'll be putting a thermometer in to record night temperatures when it gets really cold. The BMS system is in, and as we heard, is providing us some savings. Tom, just at Cutcho Geese, we're using gas for heat.
Yes, we're part of the plan where the temperatures drop down below is in place. We have to switch over oil. They let us know when we switch over. It's usually depending on
It's interruptible, yes.
a year usually.
But for the most part, we're using.
We're at gas 90 heat.
Okay, thank you. And looking forward to spring at Cutcho Geese, they've been working on garden boxes and flower boxes, and the garden is being fixed up and renovated and ready to go. Okay, somebody's got a green thumb. The lower parking lot, as we discussed, has been put in. It still needs a top coating on the blacktop, and that'll be done in the spring in better weather. Speed bumps. It sounds like we have too many speeders going through our parking lot. Several years ago, we put speed bumps in, but they were damaged with snow plowing in the winter. And Tom is planning on putting in removable bumps that we can take out in the winter, so when we snowplow, they won't be in the way, and then put them in back in the spring.
Is that at both schools, or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep. Should be 2 at East and 1 here in Matituck. The district-wide fire inspection was held on December 7th, and there was no issues reported. Guys, you did well. And we're looking at air filters for classrooms. There's a concern that maybe we would like to filter the air, and that's being checked out. We're gonna discuss it with our district's physician and BOCES and do some testing and see what can be done. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, curriculum, technology, health, that's me. In attendance was Sean and Meredith Allegro, Alana Finnegan, myself, Dave Smith, Amy Brennan, and Heather Stewart. Meredith filled us in on the special education preschool committee. There's lots of difficulties existing island-wide in finding providers for the students. And it's not just here, it's across the board. So Meredith is talking to other districts and other people to see what we can do to help find providers. There was a high school student survey that Mr. Smith and Ms. Stewart put out. The survey was given to students in high school social studies classes to canvass interests and participation in clubs and electives and sports to get students involved. And it was very interesting to see what they're really interested in based on, you know, the enrollment in some of them. 2 of them that kind of came out of that was the cooking club and the yoga club, where there was a high student interest, and I think Mr. Smith already got those people.
I think they might be on the
They
agenda.
might be on the agenda.
Might be on the
Yes, I
agenda.
think you're right.
I think they are. Yes, they are.
And it also kind of gave us a snapshot of some students that aren't involved in anything. So that opens up for other conversations. There's an ENL report card for Cutchogue East, and Alana filled us in on that the format is old and they're going to be working on a new draft. There was a bilingual conference. Some teachers attended along with Alana. Oh, no, they will be attending the New York State Association for Bilingual Education Conference in Wading River in March for professional development within bilingual education, advocacy, leadership, and bilingual education. And the future committee meetings of the Curriculum Technology Health Committee will be moved to earlier in the morning. Okay. Any questions? No?
Nope.
Next, negotiations and personnel, that's also me. Sean Petretti, now that I remembered his name, myself, Charlie, and Doug Cooper were in attendance. The MCTA negotiations, the next meeting is scheduled for January 23rd, 2023. So strange to say that. The permanent sub-coordinator, there's a lot of difficulty getting a permanent sub, but we're gonna repost the position and rethink about it and see if we can possibly fill it. Girls flag football, section 11 is creating a league. Mr. Wormuth is holding informational meetings to see if kids are interested. Some of the problems sometime when you start a new sport is that means they have to leave another sport, so, you know, he's gonna follow up on that. Combined sports teams, there's gonna be a meeting with North Fork Schools. Are you gonna do that, or Mr. Wormuth?
I'm gonna organize that.
Mr. Petretti's gonna organize that. Field hockey was put in the budget, and we reviewed the board agenda. So that's it for that committee, and then we have Miss Mary Lynn.
Yes, thank you. The Policy and Legislative Committee, which is now the Policy, Legislative, and Community Relations Committee, met on December 7th. There we met with the school district's attorney to do revisions on a few policies that are up for a first reading this evening. The first one was Policy 1900, which is parent and family engagement, which includes parent and student responsibilities. The second one was 4321, programs with students with disabilities under the IDEA and New York education law. 4321.9, use of timeout rooms was abolished and was added into this policy. We also went through voter registration of students. Students can be 16 years old to pre-register and 18 years old to register to vote. We normally do this in the 12th grade social studies classes, but we are now going to change that to 11th grade. And there is no penalty, or it's completely optional for the children to decide if they do want to register to vote. And lastly, we did disposal of school district property, and that was basically to make sure that all PI, personal information, is deleted. We will continue to do monthly meetings to discuss legislative, and we will now be adding community relation topics as well.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, donation items A through C.
First.
Need a motion?
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, personnel items A through H. I need a motion.
Yep.
I need a second.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution items A through E. I need a motion.
Motion,
I need a second.
Second.
discussion?
Discussion?
Yeah, just on D, the technology that we're discarding, there's no value to this. We can't sell it or donate it to someone else. It's just going in the garbage. All right.
I also have a request that any agreements that are going to be on an agenda, if they could be sent to the board as soon as they are prepared, so that we can take a look at it instead of waiting 3-4 weeks later.
Okay.
And I also, about the budget transfer for the unbudgeted ransomware and tornado damage covered expenses, that should be reimbursed by insurance?
Some of it, not all of it, you know, if we broke it down, so some of the things would be, but some are not. We're going back and forth with the insurance companies now.
Okay, because that's from both the ransomware and tornado damage.
Yeah, they're just
Okay.
unanticipated costs on both sides.
Okay,
Both events?
Yeah.
Because originally we thought we were only gonna be out $1,000 or so for the tornado.
Yes, that's accurate.
That's
The
still
tornado-
accurate.
The tornado is $1,000.
I think Tina has something to add.
Some of those deductibles are a little higher than we thought, right?
The deductible where it goes with the technology is different.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of the cost is coming from the ransom
Yeah, and just
situation.
so that you know, there's, as far as we talk about the budget transfer, this was the November plan, the items that we discussed, it's just that it's being approved tonight. There's also budget transfers that are within the code where we're structuring where people are in the correct building in the code, because it might have been budgeted in one area last year, and then the services provided in another area. So because of that, we want to move everything to the proper building. So that's also part of the structure here. But no change in the salary or cost, it's just putting them in the right order.
Do we know what the cost to us is going to be for the ransom situation?
I don't think at this point in time
Not
we're
yet?
able to
They
do that.
haven't,
We're still cleaning
it
it up.
hasn't been settled yet.
Okay.
Okay.
But Charlie, you got that information on our insurance increases over the last 5 years or so? And I got a copy, yes. So, thank you. At some point, could you come up with how much damage we've had over the last 5 years or 10 years that the insurance covered? The value. I just want to compare what we spent on insurance compared to what we
I could
saved.
put it in a call to our insurance provider to see what claims were paid over the years.
Yes.
And we've had like the gym, which I know was hit again with this
Yep.
tornado numerous times. When we have it replaced, refit, redone, does that, our insurance then go up every time we put in these claims?
The insurance will go up a minimal amount, but you're part of NYSEA, the New York State Insurance Reciprocal. And that's a combination, it's a company that basically insures the vast majority of school districts in the state. So depending on all of the claims throughout the state, that's how they really decide what your amounts are. It's not, sometimes you have what's called like a type of pupil benefits plan, which looks at what your claims are for 2 prior years. They do an average and then your rate comes up. Thankfully, this is not the case.
Okay. Because how many times have we had that gym redone?
Yeah, a lot.
Like
The high school's
3
been
or 4 at
twice, the
least.
elementary school's been once in
Well,
recent
that's all?
history.
It feels like forever, like
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than that.
Okay.
Charlie, that's the only insurance carrier that's available to school districts?
There are other insurance carriers. What I will say, the history that many people have is at times they leave to go to one of the insurance carriers, and 1 or 2 years later, they usually return because of the way that the rates can increase over time a little bit. Because the other companies will usually handle it in the way that we talked about with student insurance.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, audience communication.
No, we have to vote.
Oh, wait.
We're gonna vote.
I didn't vote. Okay, I make a motion.
No, we already did that.
Oh,
All
we
in
did
favor?
that? Oh, we were discussing. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You know it's late, Pat.
I didn't have a
not that
nap.
late. It's only
8:43. Look, for me, what time is it?
It's after 8.
8:43, jeez. Audience communication. Okay, before we adjourn, I just want to wish everybody a very happy holiday, happy new year, and for all of the educators and staff and administrators that take care of such good care of our kids, thank you very much and enjoy your break. I
Agreed.
need a
Thank
motion
you.
to adjourn.
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in, discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Thank you for the music, Amy. That was very nice.
Thank you.
They were great.
They were very excited to be here.